There we go. All right, well, good afternoon. Happy Tuesday, everyone. My name is Michelle. I'm joining from Amiskwaci, Waskagan, Edmonton, Alberta. And I know that we have lots of folks in the room in our virtual community that have joined us all across Turtle Island. So welcome, welcome. Can we believe that it's the last week in June? So many things have happened. Like last week just went by so fast as we celebrated National Indigenous Peoples Day, as well as a new season. That summer is officially here. Who is ready for this season? The powwows, the gatherings, the ceremonies, all good things are before us. So welcome to Cando Links to Learning. And here's another good moment before us. We are here, and this is such a great and timely topic. Building a business plan. There are so many up and coming entrepreneurs and other businesses that have been around the block for a while. I think that this is always knowledge that we could be reminded about, or we could get that refresher. So today's webinar is a really good one. And so we're so honored that you've joined us this Tuesday afternoon. Hope you're well. I hope wherever you are, that you feel safe, that you feel surrounded by love, that you have found connection within your family, within your community, with the land, with Creator. So before we get started, we just want to press pause and take a moment to acknowledge the goodness of Creator, that we're surrounded by beauty, we're surrounded by goodness, that we never walk alone. Our ancestors walk with us as well. So thank you, Creator, for the gifts of this day and this moment as we take in this good knowledge. So we think of the lands, the waters, the animals, the plants, and then us two-legged who are part of this Creator's world. So we give thanks for all of the gifts. And we are here, we are light because of Creator. So when that sun rises in the east, that's Creator meeting us for another day. So hi, Creator. All right, so let's get this show on the road. You're here for our guest speaker today, which is Laura. She's joining us from New Brunswick. So we're delighted to have you here, Laura. I know life is busy, life keeps you on your toes, and you've managed to squeeze us in this afternoon. So we're so honored that you're here, that you're bringing your good knowledge and what you've learned along the way. So she is a Listigoch Mi'kmaq First Nation with a background in mainly accounting roles, banking, and economic development. So after graduating from the University of New Brunswick in 2017 with concentrations in both accounting and human resources management, she's currently working as the Market Access Officer at the Joint Economic Development Initiative, otherwise known as JEDI, located she's going to let us know which community she's part of, but with her role at JEDI, she oversees the incubator and accelerator programs, which is so awesome. She assists in advisory services and the planning and execution of various capacity building workshops with existing Indigenous entrepreneurs and business owners in all industries. So that's why she's here today. This moment, is a really good moment that we are building capacity here. She's going to remind us, she's going to give us some tools. And I think that this is really, really important. There's a lot of good business ideas, like entrepreneurs who are doing amazing things. And I think that this will just supplement whatever they're doing already. So she's going to talk about building a business plan with us all this afternoon. So I got my notebook ready. I'm ready to take in your knowledge. So thank you so much, Laura, for joining us here at Cando Links to Learning. And I'm passing one other thing, because it is the last week in June. So once you've finished this amazing workshop, you're going to be so compelled to give your voice. You're going to fill out that evaluation form and send it back to the ladies. And then your name will be entered to win a draw, which will be done tomorrow. But there is one $500 Visa gift card up for grabs. So be sure to get your name into that draw. And all you have to do is fill out that evaluation form. All right. So now the show is yours, Laura. Welcome.
Great. And I think Creator loves to play cosmic jokes on me because my thing just died. So I'm going to use my trackpad. So welcome. So I'm just going to share my screen. Bear with me here. You might see yourself in a moment, or myself, I guess. Perfect. So I can still see myself in the corner, but I'm just going to make it a bit smaller. So before I begin, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that I am located in the traditional unceded territory of the Wolastoqey Maliseet people. This territory and all of New Brunswick are covered by the trees of peace and friendship, which the Wolastoqey, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy people first signed with the British Crown in 1725. The treaties did not deal with the surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized the Wolastoqey, Maliseet, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy title and established the rules for what has to be an ongoing relationship between nations. So obviously, great introduction. So today you guys are all going to be kind of learning the basics of building a business plan. I'm just going to keep going. So you actually gave me a great introduction, so I'm not going to really go too much into what was already pretty much covered. Yeah, so but specifically I did have some economic development experiences back home in my nation, in the Swiss Mi'kmaq First Nation, that's in Quebec, so Gaspé-Gawagi. I helped with community projects, a lot of capacity development stuff, funding opportunities, so all that fun stuff. So I do know a bit about the business planning side of it. I actually wrote my first one in high school for a candy apple business. So I'm getting a little off topic, but also on topic, but it's not in my notes. But anyway, I also want to mention that I did use part of an existing workshop that I did previously in my role as market access officer with Diane from Artful Sciences, which she's kind of a co-facilitator for our incubator and accelerator program. So she kind of helped me with some of the notes and stuff prior to this. I took out a lot, but I'm going to try to touch base on some of the stuff that we covered during that workshop, because we actually covered a topic surrounding Lean Canvas, which is also another strategic tool that you can use when you're kind of figuring out where to start. So, like I mentioned, we're going to be talking about business planning. I also mentioned I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about the Lean Canvas if no one really knows what it's about. Then I'm going to go into building that business plan, so kind of the sections that make a complete business plan. And I'm going to go to each one and kind of touch base on how to prepare to write for it, what to include in it, kind of starting the brainstorming session, basically. And then kind of a summary of what we covered and any questions. But I do want to mention that if you do have a question, I might not be able to see the chat. Actually, I can. So if you have any questions throughout, just kind of pop it in there. But I believe we have some time at the end that we can cover for some questions as well, if you only have them at the end. But anyways, it's open, it's informal. If you have questions throughout, again, you could just kind of wave your hand and be like, hey, Laura, clarify on this, please. So the importance of business planning. So basically, it's an overall roadmap for any individual business at any stage of their life cycle. I'd like to imagine a business plan as a tool to navigate. I think of a compass, really, and how it guides you on your overall destination. A business plan acts as like a navigating tool that helps you achieve your organizational goals and objectives. So creating a business plan is basically one of the most important steps for any successful business. It's used for strategic planning, accessing funding opportunities, or ensuring you're aligning your activities to your planned goals. So it's really just trying to maintain accountability for what you're trying to set out and trying to sell. There we go. So I wanted to touch base on, again, what the Lean Canvas is. So it's basically a one-pager tool. I like to introduce this tool, this strategy tool, before even jumping into a business plan, because it helps lay out your idea and everything that's involved with starting a business. So like, I'll get into each section of it, but not too much into detail, because that could be like a whole other webinar, I'm going to be honest with you. So yeah, so basically it's planning the key components of your business. And basically, it started from a concept called the Business Model Canvas by Ash Moria, or Lean Stack, they call it. And it's meant to be kind of like, again, like a high level planning tool. It's a way to just like kind of get all of your ideas and thoughts out on one paper in a very organized way. So before you even start doing the sections of a business plan, this is a really nice way to see if it's even feasible to kind of just go into writing like a large business plan for something that may not even work out for you. So as an entrepreneur, you undoubtedly have ideas and thoughts are going through your mind about how your business will be, the ideas surrounding it, how you're going to get started. So this tool, again, will try to get everything out on paper. So it's meant to be like a brainstorming kind of creative process, just to kind of stimulate the starting point of that strategic planning. It can be simple. It could be like a super simple exercise. You don't even have to like fill in all the blanks. It's literally 3 points for each section. It's really nice. Because if you start with this, it makes writing a business plan a lot easier because you already started with the ideas. You almost just need to elaborate more in a business plan, a formal business. So again, it's like a brainstorming tool. And I can share a template of a lean canvas with Elizabeth, so she can kind of shoot it out to you guys if you just want to play with it. So essentially, like I said, it's a great tool to use in strategic and business planning. It may be the kind of thing you do as a new business, or if you're already operating. This is something you can do, say, maybe once per year, take a step away from your day-to-day operations and think strategically about your business. So the Lean Canvas is one of many tools used in strategic planning and business planning. Lean Canvas is a tool that can be helpful in creating the business plan, like I mentioned, but sometimes this may be all you need. Maybe you don't even need to do a business plan. You just need to get the thoughts out on paper. And then when you actually need to get money for the starting of the business, that's when you kind of be like, okay, I got to flush out what I've already put into this Lean Canvas. So essentially, like you could see on the screen here, strategic planning is part of business plan, part Lean Canvas. There's so many other tools out there, but basically it's a roadmap, like I mentioned. You plan for today, you plan for tomorrow, and that's where you kind of use those planning tools between all that. Okay. It's my thing. Okay. So I kind of went a lot into this, but I think you guys kind of got a good idea of what the Lean Canvas functionality is. So I'm going to actually show you a little bit blown up of what this looks like. I have some notes here I'm kind of going to go through. So typically when you're starting with the Lean Canvas, where you would start is the customer segment. So basically, who are your customers? How would you normally group your customers? How would you target them differently if they're a bit different demographically? If you don't know who your customers are, this is the opportunity to be like, okay, let's do a bit of market research of what our customers might look like. So, and then the second part, I guess, that would follow right after identifying who your customers are is the problem. So inherently, your business is solving a problem. So that solution and problem you can almost do together. All you need is like top 3 problems, top 3 features. So your solution is basically your product or your service. So you almost have to be like, okay, this is what my customer is facing. This is the solution that I'm offering. So it's pretty simple. So keep it very simple. It's not made to be very elaborate, but again, you're gonna see how this connects with the whole business planning section once I get there. I just kind of want to touch very quickly on each section. So after you do the problem and solution, you know what the problem is, you know how your business is basically providing that solution to those problems. Then you kind of get into the unique value proposition. So this is like, what's your unique value? What does your business do that other competitors aren't doing? So it's basically like a single, clear, compelling message that states why you're different and why people want to buy from you. So what's basically your magic juice, basically? What are you offering everyone, that all your customers essentially? So after you figure out, you're like, hey, this is the value. Sometimes it's just being an Indigenous business because that's a huge value. The next one is your channel. So it's not like a TV channel, but it's similar. It's how you're planning to communicate to your customers. So it could be social media, could be newspapers. I don't know how many people are still reading newspapers, but that's also a channel. It could be television. Sometimes it could be just word of mouth. So something to start the brain flow fluids going. The next one obviously is very important. So revenue stream. So basically list out how you plan to make the money. So your main sources of your revenue. So that could be grants, it could be loans, it could be donations, it could be anything that's going to give you that source of funds to just get started, to pay your expenses essentially. Hopefully turn it into profits. But in the beginning, you're always just trying to just get your operating kind of just going, and break even sometimes is the happiest a lot of these entrepreneurs want to be at, but it's a starting point. So the next part that's right after revenue is the cost structure. So what's the cost for you to operate your business? So salaries, rent, mortgage payments, car loans, insurance premiums, phone, utility bills, like pen, paper, what do you need to function in your business? This is where you kind of start thinking like, okay, I for sure need these things to operate. These are other things that may not be operational. Maybe it's the direct kind of costs related to if you're making a product that you're going to turn into revenue. So you just want to kind of get a good idea of the cost structure. So I have fixed and variable costs there. I'm not going to really go too much into that, but basically, in short, fixed is amounts that don't change in the year. For example, insurance premiums, that's always going to be $200 every month. Variable costs, those things will change depending on how you're operating. So mileage might change if you need to go to a powwow on the West Coast versus going central Canada. So it'll vary, so variable. And as well, right after that is key metrics. So basically the metrics is how you're measuring your performance. So that could be so many other things. So they're like monitoring your success basically. So an example would be like sales revenue. Okay, I'm making a ton of money. That's telling me that I'm doing great. But some people, maybe it's the net profit margin. So I'm making 5% every quarter, for example. So that's telling me I'm doing a good job. Could be gross margin, could be website traffic. So you're like, okay, more people are coming to my website buying things. So it's really, it's dependent on you as an individual of how you measure your success. So it could be so many things. And lastly, I'm going to touch base on unfair advantage. So that kind of connects with the value proposition in a way where it's like, what do you have, or what is it about your products and or services that is difficult for other competitors to replicate or buy? So it kind of connects with your value in a way. You can kind of see them complementing each other. So your unfair advantage would be many things, from an unbeatable staff to endorsements from experts, basically the secret sauce. So what's your secret sauce? So that's all I'm going to touch base on the lean canvas. I could send you, or I could send Elizabeth a template of this just to kind of get the juices flowing. And it's a really, really good tool to start doing. Oh, I guess that numbered, sorry about that. You could take a screenshot too, so it's easier for you guys, but it's a really great planning tool before even jumping into a business plan. It's just something to mention. I guess I have an example here, which is really nice. I'm not going to go into each. Again, you could just kind of take a screenshot of it because we only have so much time. So I want to jump into the actual business planning, strategic part of it, I guess. Strategic business planning. Okay, so now I'm going to transition to the business planning tool. So businesses overall should be doing some level of planning, whether it's, again, strategic planning or just planning for the day-to-day operations. So like I mentioned, many planning tools are available for various parts of the business planning cycle. Like I just showed you, Lean Canvas would be like right in the beginning, again, or if you want to revamp and kind of start a new product line, for example, you're going to go back and be like, is this feasible? That one-pager tool, perfect, 20 minutes, hands down, it won't take you that long. And obviously business plans, the budget plans and operational plans. So those are all part of this whole planning tools, I guess, imagery that we're seeing. We're planning for today and we're planning for tomorrow. So like I mentioned earlier, the Lean Canvas is a tool that can help before jumping directly into a business plan. Lean Canvas is a great way to organize your thoughts on paper. And for some businesses, Lean Canvas could be all you need. But business plans are required for more formal, I guess, requirements. So like loans and grants. So a lot of the times the banks are going to ask you for a business plan. And you're like, oh, like, I thought it was going to be easier than this. So it is easy. I'm going to tell you that right now. You don't need to go crazy on business plans as long as you're able to get your ideas on each section out. And sometimes I've seen business plans that were half a page for each section. Sometimes I've seen them like 7 pages, 14 pages per section. It depends on the stage you're in, how much you know about it. know about your product, that you're able to kind of write a bunch about it. But I'm just letting you know, it doesn't have to be insane 40-page business plan. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. I'm just gonna jump right in. So the task can seem very overwhelming. I know that's the first thing that every Indigenous entrepreneur asks is, I need a business plan. And a lot of the times you can get a consultant to write it for you, but they don't know your vision. They don't know your strategy. They don't know your secret sauce. So a lot of the times you could tell when someone else wrote it for you. I always try to encourage the individual to write it themselves. And I kind of act as like a proofreader and like a guider, an advisor, rather than writing it for them, because it could take a while for me trying to understand the individual before I'm able to write out what they want to achieve, basically. So where do you start, basically? What should you include? So while plans may vary as much as businesses do, they're consistent topics. So today I'm going to cover those consistent topics, so the main sections of the business plan and what each section should include. So please note, again, each section can be a paragraph long or a few pages or a ton of pages, depending on how much you want to write. But it's up to you as the individual and how much information you want to share, or how much you actually just need to include to get, say, that funding. Okay, so I'm gonna show you the sections of the business plan. So these are all the 7 sections. So every business plan, there's 7 sections. So a completed business plan may appear daunting, but again, it's easy to do if you think of it as writing a story about your business, one chapter at a time. It's not difficult, it just takes some time to research and write the sections. So start with any topic you're most comfortable with. So there's no like chronological order to start, basically. You can basically start at 7, you can start at 5, 4, 2, but typically the executive summary should be done at the end. So that's my biggest, I guess, advice, is writing the executive summary at the end, because that just kind of ties in all the other sections in a nice 1 or half-page summary of what your objective is. And it kind of leans into the detailed sections. So even though it's first, you write it last. Okay, so now I'm gonna go through each section. And at the end of this, if we have time, I'll kind of give you a quick example of what a completed one looks like, and just to show you kind of what it looks like in real life. So the executive summary, like I mentioned, is to provide a very brief yet informative summary. So imagine this as the only page an investor or a funder might read about your plan. So essentially, it's like a written out version of your main canvas. It's the best way I can probably describe that. But your goal is to draw the readers in, so they want to learn more about your business. So this section appears first, like I mentioned, do it last. So basically, you're summarizing your business, and you're summarizing your business is basically what you want to achieve. So it's anything around your business name, location, what you're selling, what the ask is. So what is your plan trying to achieve? Your marketing summary and your financial summary. Okay. So the next section is the company profile, so business profile. So this is where you should explain, again, who you are, but in a more detailed way. So how you operate and what your strategic goals are, what your business goals are, your day-to-day stuff. So you're going to give yourself a brief overview of who your company is, like who you are, the structure. So the structure is basically if you're a sole proprietor, so if it's just you, a partnership, it's you or someone else, or maybe 3 other people or 4 other people, just kind of showing like who's part of the business. It's kind of giving a bio of your business. Basically, this is the time where you can talk about the history, the nature of your business, or how it came to be. This is where you can kind of get crafty and be like, okay, I was just sitting down at the table with my nogami, and I had an idea that I wanted to start doing ribbon skirts to revitalize my culture. Something where you can just like fit in something cute. This is where you also mention your mission and your vision. Again, those mission and visions, there could be a whole other links to learning on those 2 things, but essentially what you're doing to achieve, what you're planning to achieve, what your objective is, and basically the summary of the business goals you're planning to do with your company. Okay. So the next section is products and services. This is where you basically describe what you're selling, either products or services, how it benefits that customer. So make sure you include relevant details that give insight to your products or services. So perhaps about suppliers, so who's going to be your suppliers, where you're going to get your stuff from, your product or service cost, so how much it costs per unit, for example, or just for general service needs. And this is where you can kind of mention the gross margin expected from the sale of these products or services. So again, gross margin could be another whole thing to learning, and maybe you guys can hire me for that one again, I guess, or ask me to volunteer for that. But basically how it's solving that customer's problem. So now you're probably remembering, you're like, where did I hear that? Lean Canvas. So you already started that brainstorming. This is where you have the chance to kind of flush it out and be more detailed instead of just like bullet points. So yeah, basically what the market role is, the advantages that your product basically provides for the customer. And yeah, again, mention who's helping you, what's part of that ecosystem, who's your suppliers that's helping you get the fur pelts, for example, if you're making earrings. So the next one is the market analysis. So basically the market analysis is the section where you're able to demonstrate your understanding of the market and the research you have done to support your business plan assumptions and future success of your business. So this is where you kind of show like, look, I did my homework. I've checked the industry trends, and this is telling me, this is confirming that this is going to be a successful venture, sorry. So basically, this is where you explain who the customers are and who you're targeting, basically, their demographics, what influences their buying habits, so their age, price, like the price range, and what they would be willing to buy from you, their lifestyle choices, how convenient it is for them to be able to buy your product, what their household income would be. So basically, it's kind of like a profile of your ideal customer or customers. You just writing out what they would look like. So you also, once you do that, once you kind of describe who your customer are, you kind of then connect it to those industry information to support those assumptions. So like industry performance data. So a lot of the times when you're just starting out, you don't have that information. So there's a lot of industry research that you could do. Actually, ACOA has a really good department, the Business Information Services departments, where they literally have so much trend data that you could just grab and put into your business plan for this section to kind of prove that you're able to kind of, again, solve that problem. So yeah, again, provide industry trends, historic trends, growth projections, buying trends. So that ACOA meant that department I just mentioned to you, I could actually also, it's in the notes here, but I could send it to Elizabeth to also share that to you guys if you need some help in the whole market analysis section without actually having to hire a market researcher or doing it yourself. There's so much data out there for each sector and each industry and each way of business that you could almost piggyback on and just kind of just take that and be like, this is why it'll work in this location for these demographics. This is where you also can kind of put your SWOT analysis. I don't know how many of you might already be very aware of what they are, but essentially this is where you talk about your strengths or your weaknesses as a business and your opportunities and threats. So a SWOT is basically very short. I'm going to not go too much into it, but how can you turn your weakness into an opportunity and change a threat into an opportunity? So it almost like works together. So yes, you might have weaknesses, but how are you going to turn that into a strength? What are the opportunities to change those weaknesses into strengths? You know what I mean? So again, it's one of those one-pager things that really help you plan out of what you are and what you provide and what may be limiting to you, but it's not the end all, because you can actually change. You could change with behavioral kind of changes to your business. So yeah, so basically what's the key to your success? So how will you stand out and what is your competitive advantage? Like, again, that sounds very familiar because we kind of touched base on the value proposition and that, what was the other one? Yeah, competitive advantage. So what's your secret sauce? The next section is strategy and implementation. It's a big word, but essentially it's just your sales and marketing strategy on how you plan to promote yourself and reach those target customers. So websites, brochures, trade shows, advertising on social media. Again, that sounds very familiar. It sounds like the channels I mentioned in Lean Canvas. So this is where you're you're going to start seeing those connections of these planning tools that you may have already started writing out in your lean canvas. This is where you kind of get into the nitty gritty and say how. So what is that path on how you plan to operate your business? How are you getting to those customers? So essentially it's like your sales strategy on how you're planning to use those sales channels, like I mentioned. So retail, catering, wholesale, that's for retail obviously, but for services, you're going to provide the different types of services you will offer. So how you're communicating that to your customer, essentially. What's your plan to communicate to them? And how frequent? Are you posting on social media every day? You're only doing it once a week. So this is where you're going to show the effort you're making to communicate to your potential customers that you exist and that you're ready to sell to them. So operations will include details about, again, your day-to-day. I know I have it as a bullet point there. Operations, how you produce, package, deliver, purchase. So how you're even just getting that product, that finished product to your customers is where you kind of get into the details of how you're going to do it. It's all part of the same strategy. So operations may also include staffing plans. So if you plan to have staff, this is going to show how you're planning to staff people, basically, during the business seasons, for example. You also include operating hours if you have a storefront, so any of the store locations or retail locations. But normally you might be just starting at your place, so this is where you kind of mentioned that as well. And you also need to consider any legal or regulatory requirements to operate your business. So a lot of the sectors might be highly regulated. So obviously, if you want to start a bar up and you want to get a liquor license, there's going to be a lot of regulatory requirements. A lot of the food industry stuff, there's so much requirements depending on what you're planning to sell. So just be very mindful of those requirements. I know there's different regulating bodies in each province. I'm not sure what they're called in each province, but I know here in New Brunswick, it's Opportunities New Brunswick. So they actually have people there. That's their whole job. They're getting paid to basically help you figure that out. What are the regulatory things that you need to keep in mind? So next is the organization and management team, sorry. So basically, when you're just starting out as a solo entrepreneur, this is typically just one person described here. So some people start in a whole partnership when they're at the starting point. So this is just really kind of describing who's making the business. This is a nice little bio of who you are. If it's just you, it's information about you. If it's more than one person, though, you have to also mention the structure. So like 51% Indigenous owned, for example. So you're gonna have to say who's the other 49. Yeah, so it's very simple, just kind of listing out who's part of that ecosystem. So not the suppliers part of the ecosystem, but more of like the advisors, board members, if you have any at that point, or accountants and attorneys. But a lot of the times, if you're just starting out, it's just you. So you basically talk about yourself, which is, it should be easy for most people, but I know it could be hard to kind of start giving yourself your own bio. It's almost like a CV, like a resume. So it's basically just kind of saying, this is what makes me capable of getting this done. You basically list out your experiences to date there, or I guess your team members as well. So this is a big one. I feel like a lot of people, this scares the crap out of everyone. I've actually written this part for some people if they just kind of give me their receipts, and then I'm just like, okay, what's the target amount you want to make per month, and then just kind of almost fill in the gaps there. So a lot of the times people don't, like, just starting out, they don't know how much things cost. And this is where you take the time to start getting quotes. Start getting quotes from suppliers, being like, okay, my insurance is going to be this much every month. And like, just trying to think of the costs, almost like, again, the cost structure that I mentioned in the lean canvas, is trying to think, okay, what is my goals for my revenue? What's the money I'm going to be getting from funders potentially? So this is where you're starting to list out, okay, it starts with revenues. This is where I'm getting my funding from. And then you basically go in the cost structure after. So what are the costs to operate? What are the costs to create my product, essentially? So here's where you also have to keep in mind a cash flow statement. I'm not going to get, again, too much into that. Another whole topic I can get into, but essentially cash flow statements are making sure you have enough money in the bank to pay your day-to-day stuff. So you're not going like bankrupt, basically. It's just making sure you're not overspending. So cash flows are really, really important. It's making sure you have enough cash to operate, because you don't want to be spending too much, because then you'd be dipping into loans, which is not good. Obviously here you also mentioned the income statement and the balance sheet. So when I was talking about the revenues and the cost structures and the costs of your business, the income statement is kind of a fancy way of describing that. The balance sheet is the value of your business. So what assets do you have right now that you're putting into the business that you can put on a balance sheet? When you're just starting off, I've seen the most simple balance sheets, as long as you're showing what assets you're personally putting into this business first, how those assets are being paid for. Either it's from your own pocket or it's from a loan. It's like, okay, assets, liabilities, they equal out. So the liabilities are either you out of your own pocket or the banker's pocket. So that's where the balancing act kind of comes in. So this is the financial plan and projections section. So a lot of the times, once you give your starting point, where you're starting, it doesn't have to be elaborate. And then basically the 3-year projection. So the projection section of this section, you basically you outline your goals. So if I want to make $10,000 per month, and this is how I'm going to do it. So this is just supporting all of those objectives you just wrote, and all of those other sections of how you're going to do it, why it's going to be successful. And this is where the money part and the quantitative parts come in, proving how you're going to do that and what it's going to look like, how much profit you're planning to make or you want to make. It's just, and yeah, again, it's supporting those objectives. So a lot of the times the bankers are like, okay, well, how are you going to do this? And be like, oh, refer to this section of my business plan. So a lot of it all ties together. And once you start going, it makes a lot more sense. But yeah, so I had notes here, but I think I just covered it all right there. So what I'll do is show you quickly what a completed one kind of looks like. I don't know how clear that is for you guys, but I'll just make it. Oh, that definitely didn't help. So yeah, as you can see, literally it's 2 paragraphs for that profile summary. That executive summary I mentioned, market research. Literally, it's not that scary. And I would have went to each section while I was going through it, but sometimes it's just nice to just kind of get an overview at the end after I kind of get into it. You're like, oh my God, it seems like a lot. But as you could tell, it's not that scary. And I can also share this with Elizabeth. I believe I already did, so she can forward it to you guys as an example once you guys feel like you're ready to write the full business plan. But I'm just going to kind of skim through it so you guys can get a good look at, and a real life, this is an actual business plan for Anna B's bakery. So this is kind of where the market research comes in. So you're like, okay, this is where I'm tying in my industry trends, my research. I did all my homework. And it's a bit longer, obviously, because you kind of want to let the funder know, or yeah, I guess let the funder know who your customers are and how well you know them. So that's the very, very simple SWOT analysis here. And target market. This one's a bit longer. And that's strategy implementation. So how you're planning to communicate to your customer. So your social media strategy, your objectives, sales process. So how you're actually selling to them, not just communicating. And this is your operations. So where you're going to be located. So honestly, you could be just online. You could be just completely digital. This is where you kind of just talk about the fact that you're digital. And yeah, these are the legal issues. So these are the regulatory stuff I was mentioning to you. So if it's a highly regulated area, you want to mention it here. Yeah, so again, all the regulative kind of stuff. This is where you kind of give your own bio, the management side of it. This is a bigger example because they have an actual human resources section, and this is the financials. So the break even, like I mentioned in the beginning, it's just break even basically means that you're making enough revenues to cover all of your expenses. So you're not making a profit. So, but a lot of times people forget that they forget to pay themselves first. So a lot of the times they don't realize that the salary section on the income statement, that they're part of that. So even though it looks like you're not making money, you're like, how am I going to pay myself? You have to make sure you're paying yourself. So don't forget about that, please. Yeah, sales forecast. That's kind of saying like where you're going to see yourself in 3 years. So a lot of the funders usually ask a 3-year mark. But again, like I'm gonna ask Elizabeth to share this with you guys so you can actually kind of nitpick and kind of go through it. But I just wanted to kind of show you what it would look like. So this is what a cash flow looks like. I don't look scary, but it's honestly it's all formulas that are super easy. I know it doesn't look easy, but I'm giving a horrible example for how easy it might be. Okay, so I'm just gonna jump back into this. I just wanted to show you guys really what one looks like. So Lean Canvas, business plan, both tools that are used for strategy. Lean Canvas for your benefit. Again, it's very high level, can be done very quickly. It gets all those thoughts that are going everywhere into one page. It's very strategic and it's supposed to be fun. It's brainstorming. And I always recommend to do a Lean Canvas before you jump into a business plan, because like I mentioned, there's a lot of the things that kind of coincide, they go together. You just basically fill in the gaps, the business plan. It's either for you, keep yourself accountable basically, or for others, for like funders, like I mentioned, and more researched. And yeah, it requires more time. It's not going to be something that's as quick as a Lean Canvas, but if you're very serious about your business, you're going to take the time for it. And you're going to have to sit and do some deep thinking. But what I really like about the Lean Canvas is that it kind of gets those juices flowing that you can fill in the gaps later, and it makes research a lot easier. So that's the summary. I basically covered all the sections of a business plan, the importance of it. I also touched base on the Lean Canvas. I'm surprised I was able to talk about both those things within the time frame because I talk really fast. So hopefully I wasn't too fast for everyone. And basically how the business model canvas and Lean Canvas, they're basically the same thing. You could look into the business model canvas. They look exactly the same. I'm not kidding. You're gonna be like, what's the difference here? So I didn't bother kind of going into that, but Lean Canvas is even more lean than the business model canvas. But yeah, so Lalin, Liliwen, Melcy, thank you. If there's any questions now, I'm just going to take a peek at the chat.
Thank you so much, Laura.
So
I think there were 2 comments about making sure that the participants, all of you have joined us, will get a copy of this. And you said that a couple of times. You've sent it to Elizabeth, and Elizabeth will send it all to you, which is an excellent resource. I always like to look at those samples or a business that already has it created or made up. So that was a really good resource that you brought to us today. I want to kind of go back. So everybody, this is an opportunity for you. If you have a question, we'd love to bring you on in, or you can put it in the chat box. But at the very beginning, you talked about a candy apple business idea you had. What? That's the coolest thing I've heard.
It was high school. I think it was like an entrepreneurial class. So I was like a group project. But yeah, it scared me at first, obviously, because I was just a kid. But once you start writing it out, it just like, it's a flow that happens because you're subject matter expert. It's only you that knows your business. So it makes it easier to just kind of let it out. And don't be so hard on yourself writing it out, grammar and stuff, because there's consultants out there that can proofread for you. I'm pretty sure I think it's Grammarly. They proofread for you. There's AIs out there that does that for you. So I wouldn't stress too much about that. But yeah, if you have any questions, just go ahead. I can cover as much as I can.
Open. So floor is open. Anyone want to jump in
here? Hi, Diane. She's one of our facilitators for the incubator and accelerator program. So she helped a bit on the notes from a previous workshop, like I mentioned.
Well, hi, Diane. Thanks for being here.
No worries. It's a good topic and an important one.
I hope I covered everything thoroughly.
I'm sorry I was late.
Oh, no worries. I couldn't really see the numbers in here, but I was aiming to be done at this time. So it looks like I achieved my objective.
You're right on time, Laura. One thing I thought really stood out to me with the Lean Canvas model was the potential for a creativity flow. With the other business model, it was all about deep thinking strategy. And I think that piece is really, really important. And it's important when we go into like thinking about our business or our idea to uncensor ourselves, like let the creativity, let the ideas flow. Because I think that's important. So I'm actually going to look into that lean canvas model and spend some time working it. So I appreciate that. Anybody else have a comment or a question? Now is the time.
Oh, I see Frank here too. So he's the other facilitator for our incubator.
Awesome.
I love that you
I
guys are-
just want to say, Laura, you did a fabulous job.
Yay. Oh, that makes me feel good. Thank you.
Did good.
I didn't eat before this on purpose.
So you're getting hangry.
No, not hangry. You're letting out my dirty laundry here, Frank. Yes, I have the hangry gene, unfortunately. But yes.
So do I. So do I. All right. Well, it
Nope.
doesn't appear.
That means I covered everything good. The first
You
question.
actually covered so much ground today. Like, it was very thorough, really good presentation. You brought some really great knowledge. And the fact that y'all are going to get a copy of this and you'll be able to pick it apart, read it into it a little bit more in depth. I think that is just an excellent resource that you've left us with. So thank you so much. Ken is saying excellent presentation. Quentin is like, just want to say thank you for your presentation. You did great. And we all appreciated your time and knowledge. So I second that.
That's so good
So
to hear.
thank you all for joining us. And so go have some dinner now, Laura. Just enjoy the rest of your evening. And Diane, yes, that was the first thing I noticed were her earrings. All right, thanks everyone. Be well. Have a good rest of your day. And hopefully we'll see you again here at Cando Links to Learning. Peace, everyone.
I will share the lean canvas stuff with you guys as well. I'll send it over to Elizabeth so you guys can take a peek on that as well.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right. Take care.
See you soon.